what a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you're new to this channel, or you've not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support this channel, as Dank has just done before the show even started, then there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows before they're live, and there's also a PayPal link in the info box below the video once it's rendered. Most importantly though, if you would like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the shape of the Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcomed back on the next stream. Please also share the show. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel. So please share the show. And one last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now we are joined by Chocolate Saying, The Plain Truth, and Arwin. Good to have you all, gentlemen.
Good afternoon.
Oh, why can't I hear anything
right now?
What?
I said I'm speechless right now.
Hello, hello.
Is everybody's sound coming through?
Yeah, I hear him.
Nathan? Nathan, can you hear us?
Wow.
Wow, something's
I told you something was happening.
hold on, I'm gonna test. Wow, something. Okay, yeah. Maybe Nathan can't hear us, but we are definitely being heard in the Hangout. So just so you guys know. Anyway, so Travis, you had something to share? Go ahead.
Well, I've just been observing the moon as much as I can the past few months, and posted some shots of things that I found interesting last week. And right now, this week, I was tracking the sun as well, or the moon, watching it move closer and closer to the sun. And the application that I use is called Skyview. And since 6 o'clock this morning, I've been checking it out. And Skyview has been telling me from 6 o'clock this morning until now, even, the moon is in front of the sun. And there is no eclipse. And I'm just trying to figure that out.
Yeah, that's funny, isn't it? When they tell us that the sun eclipse is actually caused by the moon, and it's clearly not.
Yeah, I had a smart-ass friend on Facebook said, I've got a book here that gives us some pointers on sun and moon observation for eclipses. First point is locate the sun. Second point is locate the moon. There are no other points.
Well, I guess that in this instant, there's still one more point to be added to it, and that is a mysterious invisible body called Rahu. Rahu, the great eclipser of the sun.
Right.
Which apparently has its own, how do you say, pathway, orbit within the clockwork of the heavenly bodies. By the way, in that app of yours, is there a Rahu body?
I haven't looked for it. That's interesting. I guess it does deal with the constellations, and I actually downloaded a second app just to back up and see if it was, accurate with mine. And they both located the moon and the sun in tandem. And but the new app that I have did have mythological selections and whatnot. So maybe I'll check through that and see if it has those other. See, I would imagine
that would be cool.
I would imagine it doesn't, because while it has constellations, that's because the constellations are real. So I wouldn't imagine it would have something. Obviously, if a Hindu cosmology isn't considered real, why would they have it listed? Because you can't observe it. So I don't know.
Yeah, I guess so. If it's too evasive from the heliocentric point of view, then yeah.
Yeah,
But it should be there. There should be like add-ons for this.
yeah, that would be interesting. That would
Just
be
like, hey, you want to include Rahu in your app, or
They'd be like, what?
like on and off clickables. Like you want to add this, this, and this, or you just want to leave that out.
Right.
Before the last eclipse that we had, um, what was the big one that we had in August, I think of last year. Um, did you guys were you guys able to see the moon in the sky before the eclipse happened?
I had a lot of cloud coverage where I was. It was a very cloudy day, and so it was breaking up. So I could actually watch the moon, watch the eclipse through the clouds without any.
The moon eclipse? Chocolate?
Back in August.
Yeah, it's still August, by the way. So
No. I mean,
No,
last
I
year.
think it was, yeah, like the big one that we had last year.
Yeah. Last year's
Yeah.
big eclipse.
the sun eclipse, you mean?
Okay, yeah, sun eclipse.
Right.
Yeah,
Because
I
there
just
was
said
a
I
moon
just said
eclipse.
eclipse. I just said eclipse.
Right. But there was
But,
a moon eclipse not too long ago, and I saw it like in front of. I
No, I'm
wish I
talking
had a
about
P900. I could have filmed it really nice, but I did see like a darkened brownish ring with a black hole within it, and then the moon had like a bite out of it, and then it went full again. That's what I saw right here in the sky live.
Oh yeah.
That was
Okay.
that was
Oh.
the most amazing moon eclipse I've ever seen, and it's far
But
more
with-
than just the reddish stuff that you usually get to see over it during a moon eclipse. It was very heavy.
But with the solar eclipse last year, like I was looking in the sky, I couldn't find the moon for anything. And I'm like, wait a minute, the sun's right there, and we're like everybody was timed out for the eclipse. Like everybody knew when it was supposed to happen. So where the hell is the moon? I'm looking for the moon. I'm like, shouldn't it be somewhere right there, like about to eclipse the sun? I couldn't find it anywhere. I couldn't see it for any. I wasn't using cameras or anything. I didn't have any because I was like at work. But I mean, I should just be able to see the moon up there somewhere. I don't know. I was just like, this is weird.
I've never seen the moon close to the sun. Never ever.
Right. Like, why don't we see that? Like, if that's supposed to be what's going on,
Yeah.
I don't understand how we don't get those optics. Like,
You should be seeing like a blackened disc.
that's what I'm saying.
Because
Like,
it's
it should
almost
look
right
so
in front of the sun,
different.
so you should always see the completely darkened moon. But you never see that, do you?
No.
You only see the blue. It's just like the shadow. You don't see it. It's just gone. It makes a lot of sense. No, it doesn't.
And I don't remember seeing the moon afterwards either.
Nope.
Shouldn't all this just be happening up there? Like, that's why that whole whatever dark body that's supposed to be up there. I don't know anymore about that theory because it's like I don't know.
Oh yeah,
It should look different than what we're seeing if they're telling us that that's how it's happening. I think
absolutely.
in basic common sense, like if you're gonna tell me the moon, that's happening because the moon is in front of the sun, I should see the moon in front of the sun. How is it all of a sudden the moon's gone, but then there's this black disk that appears in front of the sun, passes over the sun, but you still don't see the moon. And then all that's done, no moon. I don't know. So weird.
All of it is. Look, like even technically, there's supposed to be planets moving in front of the sun at times, and you should be seeing shadows from them. I've never seen that. So, yeah, the whole thing is all based on this
Crap.
physicality assumption bias that there are shadow workings of objects being in front of lights, and that's just not what that is. None of it is. it's all light, but there's no physicality about it. And the only reason why the moon and the sun get darkened, get eclipsed, is because there are these mysterious discs out there. Rahu and Lilith, I so heard yesterday on Iron Raw Media, they talked about what actually causes the moon eclipse. And they say it's like the dark moon, Lilith, that eclipses it just like Rahu eclipses the sun. And you could almost call it like they're shutters. So not like discs, but almost like shutters that close off that light source at specific times. So, but yeah, it's a giant play of light in a very systematic mechanism out there. And yeah, we get to see a play of
it's
light.
fascinating.
Absolutely.
Well, that shit is fascinating.
It's a clockwork of light projected in a globe around our vision. And none of it's physical.
And none of it proves we're on the globe.
No, it just looks like a globe. So yeah, if that's enough evidence for you, then yeah, okay. If we see something and we assume that it has to be all physical, literal, then yeah, you could assume all kinds of weird things about the shape of the Earth if you wanna. That doesn't make much sense.
And then we get weird times where, like Travis is saying, like the moon is in front of the sun right now, but there's no eclipse. What the hell is that? That's where if the moon is supposed to be in front of the sun right now, why is there no eclipse? According to what that app he's using.
Well, the app only describes pretty much the technical orbits or the pathways of the mechanism. Doesn't actually tell you what you're supposed to see. Now, does it? Right? It doesn't tell you like, oh yeah, now the moon is in front of. Now it's eclipsing.
Well,
No, it just
I don't know.
tells
You gotta
where-
ask Travis because I don't know. I didn't use the app. I
Oh
don't know
right,
if you
Travis.
can hear me.
Yeah, sorry, I had to step into the post office.
Hello,
Hey,
Hillel
hello. How you
Finder.
doing? How you doing? Hello.
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 Ah,
Good
good,
to
it
have you.
works.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
Welcome
As
to-
you were. Sorry, didn't want to interrupt.
Yeah, so what was your question, Arwen?
If the app actually tells you when you are supposed to be seeing eclipses or not, or does it just tell you where the bodies are in the sky?
Hey,
Yeah,
was not was.
the new app that I downloaded does have that. It will tell you supposedly it'll tell you eclipses, it'll tell you meteor showers, it'll tell you whenever something's going to be passing. You know,
Alright.
so
But now it's just like, yeah, we know the moon is in front of the sun, but no eclipse. Just
right,
don't
right.
think about it.
That's right. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
Move along.
Don't worry
nothing to
about.
see.
Don't worry
Nothing
about
to
that.
see.
Look over here.
Well, it's not in front of the sun.
Yes, it is. It's been in front of the sun since 6 o'clock in the morning. I've been watching it.
That's definitely not right.
Yeah, I know.
And they're going
I
to be
know.
separated
That's the
by
problem.
anywhere between, I suppose, 1 to 5 degrees.
Okay, but what I'm telling you is based on my app. If I was just some schmo who wasn't a flat earther and wasn't questioning anything, and I was just making observations, I would be looking at my app telling me that the moon is in front of the sun. I don't know how to make it any plainer.
Well, then all I could say is that your app is not as accurate as it could be.
Except for the fact that yesterday it was, and the day before it was, and last week it was. Whenever I was trying to find Mars,
Well,
whoop,
mainly
there's
because if you
Mars.
check up, I'm sure that if you check other programs or other apps, it's not going to say that the moon is right on top of the
catching
sun.
up. You're catching up a little bit late. I told you that I downloaded a second app this morning, and the exact same thing. The moon and the sun are in tandem in that app as well.
All right.
So I'm trying to take it just as objectively. I'm not saying anything. I'm saying, what the hell?
Actually, I'm wondering, what
So-
app are you using? Because I'm interested in getting some kind of similar app for myself, and I'm I'm not quite sure. There's a lot of options.
I use Skyview, just the basic, and then the other one that I did right now is called Sky Guide, and I had to pay for that one. But they were both listed first in the selections with high ratings, so that's why I chose them.
I'll look into those. Oh, and speaking of it, I remember you mentioned it's going to be. It tells you when stuff like meteor showers are going to happen. What's it called? The one, is it tomorrow, the day after, the Perseid?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I haven't looked into it. I just was looking at the menu when I first opened up the app and saw that it can supposedly tell you when those things are going to happen.
Well, it's quite a show. I saw one. I actually saw the same meteor shower. I think it was 2 years ago, and I loved that. That was so much fun.
Yeah, so it's interesting. So have you been traveling the world anymore? Hello?
Not recently. I got back from St. B's, and then I basically have been staying kind of put.
Anything else you're thinking through or working on?
Mainly I'm just working on analyzing that. It's slow.
Right? You're an American, right?
Yeah.
So you went over to England to check it out?
Yeah, it was St. B's was it was a pit stop while I was in the area. So.
Oh, nice. And?
Yeah.
Have you got some footage?
I have. I'm just working on analyzing it.
Hey, Ruhif, can you hear us?
No.
Hello.
Hello.
So anyway, I remember also someone mentioned the eclipse from last year. Yeah, the Great American Eclipse. That was also very enjoyable. Did any of you see any remnants of that?
Remnants?
I got to see a little bit
I'm not sure
of
if
it.
you were in America or somewhere else in the world, or if you managed to see it at all.
Yeah, I did see a partial sun eclipse here in the Netherlands. Just like, yeah, the dark disk coming in front of it partially, but never fully eclipsed.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I managed to get right
same
into the
thing.
path of totality, but unfortunately there was a thunderstorm and I only got a few seconds.
I'm in New York. I got to see it partially too.
Nice.
But again, was looking for the moon before and afterwards. Still couldn't find it. It's just weird. That's how it's supposed to work, right?
With that? No.
You don't see a problem with that?
Can anyone on the panel tell me why you cannot see a moon when there's a solar eclipse? Anyone?
Well, you can. It's right there.
No.
That's one of the few times when you'll know exactly where the new moon is.
We know where it's supposed to be, but you don't actually get to see it.
You don't see it.
Well, doesn't it strike you as a bit, a bit of a coincidence that every solar eclipse is going to happen on a new moon, just when the moon just so happens to be, as the plain truth put it, it's going to be right on top of the sun.
Yeah, come on, people.
That is a coincidence.
I don't
well, that's right.
Like that.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was making a point of 2 months ago. If you go back to find whatever shows it was, I called in and I said, guys, the moon is directly below the sun. So in May, the new moon was the bottom half of a figure 8 with the sun, according to my same app. So it's been in that same vicinity. And so it's still the same phenomenon, because back in May, my question was, so even though it's not an eclipse, why am I not seeing the moon in the dark, in a dark shadow, if it's in front of the sun? That just physically.
Well, in order to see the shadow, you need to have some amount of contrast, right? And you basically have the sky, which is always going to be that same either dark color or blue color or whatever it is, versus the moon, which is not producing any more light of its own. So there's no contrast. You're not going to see a shadow there.
Is the moon a solid object?
Yeah.
Okay. Is it in front of a light source?
Well, only during the eclipse. If it's not during the eclipse, then it's just off there. It's not producing its own light. It's just there's no contrast string by to show where that shadow would be.
That doesn't make any sense.
Right. Yeah, that doesn't make any sense, Hillel. Listen, if you have a light source in a large room and you put a large object below that light source's trajectory, you're going to see a dark circle because there's a shadow being produced by the light. It
Shadow
doesn't have
cast onto what?
On you, the observer.
Yeah, that's just it
Yeah,
though.
that's
If
during
the
an
shadow
eclipse.
doesn't fall onto you, you're not going to see it because
Yeah, you are.
you're not seeing that
Yeah, you
contrast
are.
against the light source.
No, that's wrong. There's indirect
During an
light,
eclipse, yes.
and the shadow doesn't have to be directly cast on your eye to see that there is basically shadow being created by the light behind it, even though it's not
Oh.
directly behind it.
Right.
Oh yeah, totally. If you're in a room, something there's going to be some indirect light that's not coming from the light source itself. Obviously it's going to
exactly.
bounce off the walls, and
So
it's
why
going to bounce
not
off the
with the
walls.
moon?
Hold on, wait,
What's
I'm
it
not
going
done.
to cast
Obviously,
onto,
it's
Owen?
obviously if you're in a room, obviously the light's going to bounce off the walls and other things, and then you'll be able to see that that object because again, there's some contrast with the light bouncing off some other object and then coming to you. But in space
Bye.
where the moon is, there's no the light's not going to bounce off of anything and then come back to you. So you're not going to see that black disk because there's no light coming from that direction. So you're only going to see the disk of the moon during an eclipse when it's actually going in front of the light source itself.
That sounds like a lot of blah, blah,
that-
blah. Doesn't
Yeah,
make
it does.
sense.
Makes no sense. Common sense, man. They're telling us that the moon is eclipsing the sun, right? The
Mhm.
moon is supposed to pass in front of the sun. That's how an
Mhm.
eclipse is supposed to work. So how
Mhm.
can you not see the moon beforehand and
Seriously,
afterhand?
figure it out, dude. Figure it out.
Well, if you're not, like I just said, there's no
Just
light.
Yeah,
you're only
figure it
going to
out.
see the
We
disk
are-
if
we
there's
are
some
figuring
if
it
it's
out by
providing some
saying-
contrast.
We
Yeah,
are
we-
figuring it out.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Right.
we're
figured
trying to
out the
figure
moon
it
is not
out.
physical.
You're just accepting what you're told. I'm
It's so
giving you
obvious, I can't believe you guys
listen.
don't get it.
I'm giving you a basic observation that anybody with common sense should be able to figure out that there's something wrong with it.
No,
You're
it's
telling me
exactly
this thing
right
is
with-
supposed to be eclipsing something else. It's a big ball in the sky, right?
Yeah.
A big solid ball that you guys, say we could walk on and shit. So
Mhm.
why is it not there eclipsing this sun that's supposed to be 93 million miles away?
Rightio. What is a full moon?
How do you
Tell me what a full
just
moon
not
is.
Doesn't matter
Listen,
if it's
hold
full.
on,
You're
Owen.
asking me
Hold on,
that
hold on.
is ridiculous
Owen,
because I
hold on,
don't think
chocolate.
it works
Hold
the
on,
same way
everyone.
you think
Hold
it
on,
works.
hold on. I've heard Ruhif trying to get a word in for about 3 or 4 attempts now. Do you want to go ahead, Ruhif?
Yeah. Tell me what a full moon is.
Well,
Where the moon is fully shining
Yeah. Lit up by what?
by its own light.
Yeah, that's where your whole question was just wrong from jump because you think it's the sun making that happen. We
Hey,
don't.
Pete.
Okay.
You hear us?
So it's just a coincidence that the side of the moon that's always lit up is pointing towards the sun.
Greetings.
It's a correlation.
A correlation. Wow.
Ruhif, it's very simple. If it is a physical object, yeah, and there's light in the vicinity, then there should be shadow always,
Yeah.
without a
What do you
single
think an eclipse
exception
is, Owen?
ever. If it is physical, then it will cast a shadow when light is in the vicinity. Very simple.
Pointing out something
There should
very
be
basic.
no
Eclipse.
exceptions ever.
Right.
Eclipse.
I'm
What
just
then?
pointing out something very basic.
Let me ask
I
you-
watched.
let me ask you a question.
I watched. What's his name? Crow 777, right? And like this guy is somebody that's been doing this with video cameras and telescopes for years, right? And he couldn't find the moon with one of these eclipses. He was looking for it. He had
Correct.
cameras set up.
What is a new moon? What is a
He
new
had-
moon?
Huh?
What is a new moon?
I don't know. You tell me.
It's when the
Why
sun.
is there no?
Ruhif,
Why do we not
let me-
see the moon at all during a new moon? Why is
let
there
me
not just a big black
Hold
ball.
on, don't
in the
ask him a
sky.
question.
I don't
Hold on,
understand.
hold on. He said, what's the new
Okay.
moon? You said you don't know. You tell me. Now let him tell you.
Yeah. So a full moon is when the sun is shining and lighting up a full half of the moon, right?
Sure.
Right. If the moon is in between the Earth and the sun, and you see the side of the moon that is lit up.
Say that again.
Sorry, can you say it just once more, Ruhif? Just so everyone hears exactly what you've said.
Okay. If the moon is in between the Earth and the sun, can you see the side of the moon that is lit up?
No.
What side of the moon is lit up? Is that what you're asking me?
So, yeah, the side that's closest to the sun.
No. So should you see the shadow of the moon then?
Shadow cast onto what?
Onto your
What do
eye,
you mean?
observer?
Yeah, well, that's an eclipse.
Shouldn't there be something? I mean, shouldn't? Yeah, I can't say it any more basic. Shouldn't there be a shadow?
Hold on. Can I just clarify with you, Ruhif? So we've got the Earth as a sphere. We've got the moon between us and the sun. It passes between us and the sun. And you're saying that in the same way we get a new moon, we shouldn't be able to see the moon when it's between us and the sun. Is that what you're saying?
You will only, for a new moon, you will only see a shadow during an eclipse. Every other time, there'll be like a slight angular difference in the plane of the orbit for the moon. And the shadow cast by the moon will not fall on the Earth.
So is the...
Why not?
Hold on a second, Owen. So is
It's
the
not
moon... Excuse my ignorance. Is the moon between us and the sun in the heliocentric
Yes,
model?
but not only perfectly between us when it's an eclipse.
No, sure, but is it between us and the sun?
The moon?
Yeah.
Yeah, a new moon, yes.
So if I drew a line of sight from my position on a sphere Earth to the sun, the moon would be in between on that line.
During an eclipse, directly in line, yes.
That's what I'm trying to get clarity on. It. If it's not directly in line, what is it? Just explain to me. I'm ignorant. Literally, I don't know.
Oh, okay. So the moon is not on the same plane either. Not on the same plane as the sun solar system, and not on the same plane as the Earth's axis of rotation. So they spin around, and it's only every once or twice every 100 years or whatever that we get a solar eclipse when those planes intersect. But every month you'll get a new moon and a full moon. The new moon is when the moon is in between the Earth and the sun, and the full moon is when the moon is on the other side.
Oh, forget the full moon. So does the moon sit between us and the sun? You said those exact words, but I just want to...
Yeah.
So it is physically between us and the sun, but because of the way it works in terms of how it lights up throughout the month, you're saying we shouldn't see it?
Correct, especially on a...
Okay. So when we have a transit of, say, Venus, and Venus goes between us and the sun, in the same way the moon is going between us and the sun, we see it between us and the sun.
You can see the transit of Venus, yeah.
Right. So why don't we see the transit of the moon in the same way?
Because it very rarely crosses directly in between.
Yeah, I just established that though. It is between us and the sun. That's what you said. Yep. That's why I got clarity. Yep. And in the transit of Venus, it is between us and the sun. It's the same, right?
Yeah.
Right. Hold on. Stop. So it's the same, and we see the transit of Venus, but we do not see the transit of the moon. That makes no sense.
That is what an eclipse is a transit.
Sorry, is the transit of Venus an eclipse?
Oh, technically, I'd say yes. Yeah.
Right. So how does the transit of Venus differ from the moon going in between us and the sun? I don't understand the distinction between the two.
I don't understand the distinction you're trying to make either.
Okay. So I've got an object at point A, and I draw a straight line for a meter to point B. Yeah? Point A is the sun, point B is the Earth. Okay?
Yep.
Now, between those 2 points, I put a moon. Yeah?
Yep. In that direct line in 3D space.
Well, that's what I'm trying to establish. When you say between the Earth and the moon, does it mean that you can see all the way past the moon? You have a direct line of sight past the moon? Because I would say that's not between us and the sun.
Okay, so you're talking about whether it's perfectly in line, and I'm talking about whether just during the orbit of the moon around the Earth, every month it will be in a line, in a plane at least, in a vertical plane between the Earth and the sun. So
Okay.
it won't be on that exact 3D line, that line in 3 dimensions to cause an eclipse, but obviously every 28 days or whatever, it will be in line with the Earth and the sun. Not perfectly in line to cause an eclipse. It'll be off by a bit of an angle.
Why can't
So
we
once
see
a month.
I still just want to get clarity on this. Sorry, I'm really sorry.
Oh.
It is my ignorance. But so when it's between us and the sun, and it's not an eclipse, the sun is not. The moon is not in any way in the way of the sun. If that makes sense.
Correct. It's not perfectly in the way. No, it doesn't cause any shadow on the Earth.
Slightly in the way.
Hold on. Does it in any way occult the sun as it goes past?
Occult. What's that word?
Occult.
Occult. I have no idea what that word is.
It means to hide.
Yeah.
Hide. No, it doesn't
Hide.
hide the sun. No. Only during eclipse.
So a new moon in no way occults the sun.
And it becomes completely invisible. We can't see it at all.
Yeah, because that side that is being lit up, we can't see it.
So even though it's a big
Like the
solid
transit of Venus.
ball floating in the air, we don't see it.
Yeah. And like the transit of
It
Venus.
just disappears.
Nathan
That
mentioned.
makes sense.
Yeah. We don't see the lit side of Venus when it's transiting, but we can see the shaded darker side. Ruhif, can you explain?
A transit is an eclipse. The transit of Venus across the sun is an eclipse. It's a tiny one, but it's an eclipse.
What we have here is failure
Double speak.
to communicate.
I think it's a
Yeah.
failure of you guys to
Nonsense.
understand.
You don't even understand it yourself, Ruhif.
No, he
Yeah,
does.
but-
He's explained it really clearly. He's explained it really clearly, Pete. So if the moon occults the sun, it's an eclipse, and if it doesn't occult the sun, it's not an eclipse. It's just a new moon.
Correct.
But we still
There's a
can't
new
see
moon.
it. So when it doesn't occult the sun, we still can't see it. So it's as if it's not there, right? So, I mean, what's going on? This is
It
nonsensical.
is there. It's just not lit up. We can't see it.
Yeah, but it's not something not lit up in shade or in shadow, right?
Exactly, man. Why is there not a giant black ball in the sky? If the light is coming from the sun and none of that light is hitting the side of the moon that's facing us, there still should be a big solid moon up there, right? So where the hell is
'cause
it?
it's not casting a shadow. There's no line.
Right? It's
Of
maybe a
light.
reflection.
There
of
is
something.
there
Some
will
light out there.
the light will scatter around it, just like with the moon eclipsing the sun, so called. You have
wow.
like the inner dark region and the outer dark region. There should be some kind of shadow, so you should see it, even though
But
it's
unless
it's
that-
not blocking out the light of the sun directly. There
Yeah.
should be shadow.
It should be in theory.
Where is the
of course.
shadow being cast? If it's not an
Exactly.
eclipse, where is the shadow being cast?
I have a question real
Indirectly
quick.
on us.
Let me just jump in real
Indirectly.
quick.
Yeah,
No,
indirectly.
No, I've got to put a stop to this,
Like
Arwin.
lights-
Sorry. Oh, hold on,
I think I'm
Arwin.
going to give
Scatters
up.
Arwin. The only way we'd get a shadow is if it is directly between us and it, therefore occulting the sun. If it's not occulting, we don't get a shadow. We don't see it causing a black semicircle across the sun. It's as simple as that.
No, but that's not how light and physical objects work.
Maybe, but that's how the heliocentrists explain it.
Yeah, it doesn't make any damn sense.
It does
from a
make sense. It
physical-
makes perfect sense in their
light-based
model. I
perspective.
understand what is explained.
Thank
I
you.
understand it, but it doesn't make any sense in a physical sense.
I don't stand under it. It's
Whether or not,
Well-
okay,
well,
that's
basically,
fine. You
it's-
don't have to
it's-
accept his explanation. None of us do. But that's still an explanation. It's given. It's made sense to me. It doesn't mean that's what it is. I'm not agreeing with him. It does make, to say it doesn't make sense. It does.
It doesn't.
Okay.
Yeah, but we
okay.
don't
No,
need
no. I'll
Ruhif
put the
to
shoe on
tell
your
us this
foot, Arwin.
stuff.
Tell
This
us
stuff we
what.
learned in school, this is
Hold
the
on,
stuff we
Pete.
can
Pete.
learn from
Hold on. We've got
Google,
an
right?
objection. Pete, tell us why it doesn't make sense, Arwin. What about it doesn't make sense? Because so far you've told us. Hi, Phil. You a real person? Hello. So tell us what doesn't make sense. What about it isn't making sense?
Well, it's very simple. If a light is shining on a physical object, then that will contrast like the luminescence surrounding it from the light just hitting the air around it. Okay, there should be a spot where this light is basically not being able to hit the air, lighting it up, causing a shadow of some kind, even if it is not directly in front of the light source.
I just had an
There's
idea.
always
Sorry,
a
hold on,
shadow
everyone
if
calm
there's
down. Hold
physical-
on, Arwin. So let me just give you a different example. So forget the sun, we're on Earth, we're looking at the moon. If a plane flies by in the darkness with only the moonlight, but it does not fly between you and the moon, would you expect to see that plane being lit up from behind when it's not in front of the moon? It's not occulted the moon. Would you expect to see the aeroplane?
You've got the darkness of the sky that contrasts as well, so it wouldn't.
Just let me get it with Arwin. Hi, Brandon.
If I use an infrared camera.
No. We're just looking at stuff. No infrared. We're looking up at the sky, and to our right is the moon, and slightly to the left you can hear a plane. Do you think you can also see that plane? Yes or no?
That's an unfair comparison.
It's exactly the same.
The sky, yeah, but that is totally unfair because
It's exactly
this is
the same.
about
We've got
the
two
lit
objects.
up sky during the day.
It's identical. We've got two objects. One is between the other, but not directly in front of it. It's the same.
Yeah, but I can see the shadow of a plane.
Well, you can't see the shadow of the
the
moon.
day
That's
sky.
the same argument. So you do understand. So we can move on. Excellent.
Yeah, in the night sky, you can't see it because there's nothing to contrast it against.
That's what he's
But
saying
during
about the moon.
Daylight, you will be able to see a plane, even if
okay,
it is almost
that's what he's
flying
saying about the
past
moon.
sun.
That's the same argument. So you do understand it. We can move on. You don't have to stand under it. You don't have to accept it. But it does make sense.
I don't know what you're saying, Nathan, but
Just giving you an example with the plane.
Two thoughts?
I can't do any more than that, Arwin. I'm sorry.
I just gave you an example of an actual physical object, like really high up, and you will be able to see its shadow. It's as simple as that. So why not with the moon? Why won't you see the shadow? That doesn't.
Okay, so
physical objects cast shadows, even if they are
Arwin,
not directly in front
we
of
got
the
it.
light source.
Okay.
I have two thoughts. One thought is to simply, again, we're dealing with perspective and angles and whatnot. So if I'm looking at a mountain range to my right at a 45-degree angle from where I'm standing, and the sun is behind or far off into the horizon, I can see the contrast of the mountain being dark on my side, even though I'm not directly in the shadow of that mountain. I can tell that it is darker on my side of the mountain than it is at the top of the mountain where I see the sunlight cresting over. Okay, that's my first thought. My second thought is in the moon footage that we see, one of the criticisms is that in the shadow of the capsule, it is lit up more than we would expect, which means that people observing this picture of the capsule, not in direct shadow, understand that they should see a darker side of the capsule. So when we are looking at the moon fully lit in front of us, we know that there is a dark side of the moon. Right now at the new moon, we should have our own dark side of the moon that we should be able to see.
I agree completely.
Hey, Nathan, can I say something?
Go ahead.
Can we take a step back for a second and just kind of go from a common sense approach? And when we look up in the sky at the sun or the moon, do they really seem like they're that far away?
No.
Absolutely not.
Oh.
I mean, with my own eyes, I can tell that that sun is not 93 million miles away. The moon is clearly not 240,000 miles away. It's a ridiculous argument.
Right. It's based on a presupposition of a metaphysical idea that you have to comport and contort and twist, and you have to then bring in math to make everything work.
It's to fit it into a physical, literal model instead of a globe of lights that we see surrounding us.
And my point is, why are we allowing them to dictate the parameters of the argument when we can all see with our own eyes that it's right there?
Well, we're trying to.
That's what they
take
do.
steps.
That's what they've been doing since day one.
Yeah, we're trying to take steps in that direction, Brandon.
Yeah, we're trying to change that somehow.
Yeah, but we have to first dispel the logic in their system by pointing at the errors, basically, in the weird little mind-twisting assumptions that are part of their system, to just show, yeah, that's not real. Doesn't make any damn sense.
We're getting there, Arwen. 400 shows in, and they're taking us right back to square one. So we're getting there, slowly but surely.
Well, no, it's not about convincing them, because they're religious fanatics anyway. So if we're right and it's obvious, then they don't listen.
Right.
Exactly.
So that doesn't matter. It's about the people watching the show.
So but let me just take you down a little, tell you a little story, just real quickly. I'll be brief. Last night I was talking to my stepmother. She's very, just to put it bluntly, uneducated. And I said, "You see that light over there? That's Mars." And she said, "No, it's not." She didn't believe me that it was Mars. And I said, "That is what they say is Mars." And I said, "Does that look like it's 1,000,000 miles away?" She said, "You're joking. I can't believe you." I said, "I swear." And then I showed her some pictures I had taken with my P900 of Mars, which is just like a flashing, weird light if you take pictures of it. And she was absolutely amazed. She couldn't even believe it. And just from her common sense approach, because she's not scientific, she's not educated in any way, it was obvious to her that that was not 1,000,000 miles away, and that was just a light in the sky very close to us, above us, not 1,000,000 miles away. You understand what I'm saying? Yeah. We have been led down this path, this philosophical, this scientific, this religious path, to think that everything is not the way it is, and we know it's not. We need to take the ball further and figure out, where are we actually? Who are we actually? What are we actually?
Yeah, we've been fooled into thinking the more educated we are, the cleverer we are. Like children must become, and start like your grandmother, not ignorant in one sense, but she just probably never spent any time thinking about these things. So when we bring things back to basics, I think the truth will unfold for us. Let me just say, as flat earthers, right, we have to try and figure out why the moon looks to be exactly the same size as the sun. And I think, once we sort of take this step forward, we can get some solid and firm answers.
Well, something I think we can all agree on is that even in the flat Earth model, that the sun and the moon are not the exact same distance away.
That's only the model that presumes they are at an exact distance.
Oh no, I'm just saying I think we can all agree that that's not the case.
Who cares about?
Not everybody agrees on that, but
I meant us. But and I know not of course you can. I don't think you could ever get an entire room of flat earthers to agree on everything.
I disagree. I think everything is the same distance. We're dealing with a reflective barrier and this light show being projected against it. So if you want to say that distances differ, well, that's down to you.
No, maybe by the
time. Can I just say, are you by the time you read this, I have stolen your virginity? Do you have that account as well?
Me?
Yeah. Hello.
Oh, no, I'm not that person.
Okay, thank you.
If only.
So how I analyze all the heavenly bodies is, first I take away the physicality assumption bias and say they are apparent objects. We see them at the edge of our vision. They have no location. They only have an angular relation in accordance to the observer on the position of the Earth. And if you change the observer's position, then so will the apparent location of the heavenly bodies change in relationship to the movement on the Earth. And that is it. That's the most honest explanation I can find for what we get to see. And yeah.
Surely the moon is a physical object, Owen.
The heavenly bodies, all we got is angular relationships. That's what we
you
honestly
say,
do have.
So you're basically making the same argument as Jaren's, what is it called? Relative distance argument, which is solid in my opinion, and I haven't heard anybody rebut it yet.
I would call it not relative, but apparent distance, because they appear to the observer at what seems to be an apparent distance, just as a rainbow would appear visually at a certain apparent distance, but it's not really at that distance. It's only at that apparent distance in relation to the observer. And if you change the position, then the rainbow will also change its apparent position. And I think it's the exact same effect for all the heavenly bodies, including the sun, by the way.
What about the moon, Owen?
Yeah, that's also a heavenly body. So yeah.
Yeah, but it has shadows, right? Craters and shadows.
No.
It does have surface features which create their own shadows on its surface.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. Well, so
you
what?
think that's not a physical object?
The moon is a
Blocked out the
reflection.
sun.
I
How is that
absolutely
not a
not.
physical
I think that it has some suggestions to it that it almost looks like it could be physical, but it's not.
What?
Yeah, what? Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
How about a reflection?
Have you ever looked at your monitor watching a movie? You know, it looks like, oh, wow, that's so real. It's there. Well, guess what? You're looking at a flat screen. It's not really there.
Yeah.
The moon blocks
See how that
out
works?
the sun, Owen.
Ruhab, have you heard of Aristarchus? Have you ever heard of crater Aristarchus from the moon?
Oh, is this Pete Shea?
Yeah.
Yeah. Keep going.
If you use the word Aristarchus, you know it's Pete Shea.
Owen.
No, hang on, Arwen. Please don't be, like that, because Aristarchus is described by mainstream science as the most mysterious crater on the moon, which is described as being the most mysterious object in our system. Now, if this isn't a cause for, curiosity, and especially coming as far as we think we've come, well, what is, right? So that's why I was asking Ruhab, what do you know about Aristarchus?
I got to back up, Pete, and say that as out there as it sounds, the Aristarchus argument, I think he may be onto something. I mean, we can't discount anything.
I know.
I don't know the argument. What's the argument, Pete? What's the argument?
All the luminaries that we see have one source and one source alone, and that is Aristarchus. It can be best described as the decapitated tree of life as it emanates from the north center. We are dealing with an electromagnetic, watery, mirror-like barrier above, and we have a kaleidoscopic expression of the source energy. Yeah. This is my claim, and this is my statement, and this explains why the moon is the exact same size as the sun, because the moon is a reflection of the sun. The sun itself is a reflection of Polaris. The clue is always in the name, Polaris Starkus. And Polaris, then, as all the heavenly luminaries seem to revolve around, is a direct reflection of Aristarchus. That's my, can be proven.
Sorry, Aristarchus
Pete,
is a
can I respond, please? Pete, you do realize that your entire cosmology is pretty much based on the presupposition of Aristarchus.
No, Arwen, last year I found the Milky Way and all the constellations, the star constellations on the moon, right? Now, this wasn't picked up on, and that's fair enough as well. So I've sort of moved ahead.
Nathan, am I right?
You found what?
The Milky Way,
right or not? It's a presupposition of Aristarchus that you automatically assume that Aristarchus is the origin, and that is how you always explain it.
No, I don't automatically assume anything.
Yeah, you do, because you don't have direct proof for it yet. You just assume it. That's why it's a presupposition of Aristarchus. But that's all right. It could very well be correct. But
sorry, Aristarchus is what? Is a crater on the moon? Is that right?
Crater, you notice the similarity between crater and creator? When you look at the moon, you were looking at one and only one crater, right, as it kaleidoscopically expresses. You're looking at it, different craters seem different because you're looking at them from different magnifications, different perspectives. You have overlapping artifacts, overlaid artifacts. And as Arwen said, you have the illusion of solidity, but actually the moon is a reflection of solidity. This is
sorry, Aristarchus,
which means we might be calling it craters, and they're not even craters.
No, there's only one.
Aristarchus a
They
crater
could
on
be
the
something
moon?
else.
There's
I
only
don't
one
know,
crater.
I don't know what it is about.
Can
I don't know what it is about
hang on,
Ruhif.
hang on. Can I
No
just
one's
say,
letting
if you
Ruhif
look at
get a word in.
Aristarchus, it has two neighboring craters. One is called Herodotus, right? And this is a black hole.
Pete, hello.
Yeah,
You've given your explanation to Ruhif. Then Arwen's interrupted you, and now we can't get a word in edgeways.
Well, I was trying to, expand the small bit on it, but
it's a two-way conversation, though, Pete. So at least let the person that you're discussing it with get a word in. Go ahead.
Pete gets excited. I understand.
Yeah. So, Pete, Aristarchus is a crater on the moon, right? And what are you saying? It's the source of everything? What, I don't get it.
Yeah. Okay. The moon.
You're not going to get it, Rufus.
The moon is a
because
hang on. The moon is a reflection of solidity. You asked me a question. The moon is a reflection of solidity, and the moon itself is a reflection of the sun. Right. This is why the Apollo missions to the moon and the Gemini missions, which paved the way for the Apollo missions, were so called. Apollo relates to the sun, and the sun and the moon are opposites, right? So why would they name one in relation to the other? Well, this is a clue for us. Gemini is also about twins that are telling us that the sun and the moon are one and the same. Aristarchus itself is, as I describe it, the decapitated tree of life as it emanates from the North Center. So you have one and only one source as it reflects against this contoured electromagnetic watery mirror-like barrier above, and we see all of these kaleidoscopic effects. That's what I say Aristarchus is. Aristarchus is also an anagram of Christ's aura.
Okay.
Yeah.
Look into it more.
I hope you got that, Ruhif, because every time you ask, he's going to explain the whole thing over again.
Hope you're
It's
taking
so
notes.
boring. It's so boring, Arwen, isn't it? It's so bloody boring, isn't it?
It's
No,
not that.
I know
It's
it
not-
by heart by
Hold
now.
on, Pete. Hold on, Pete. Before you rage at everyone, hold
somebody
on.
like Ruhif, because Ruhif thinks people walked on the moon. So
I just want to get a summary, though. Sorry, Chocolate. to
Sorry,
interrupt.
Peter, I missed that. Could you repeat it? No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
I just want to get one bit of clarity from Pete. So I heard decapitated tree of life at the center of the north. What?
North Center, Nathan. I think you know well what's going on as well. I actually came by.
Hold on, Pete. Hold on.
Hang on, Nathan. I actually came by.
Hold on, Pete. I don't need any more word salad. I'm struggling with the stuff I've had.
Okay, Nathan.
I just
can I
need
just
to
say
get
this
clarity,
to you,
Pete. Please. What does
I
that
actually
mean?
came by your
What
8th
does
of October,
what does that mean, Pete?
2000.
Pete,
Pete.
he asked you to shut up for a moment.
I just need to get one sentence in. What does decapitated tree of life mean when in reference
Nathan,
to the moon?
You've heard the idea of no forest and flat Earth, right, Nathan?
Yeah, I was one of the few people who completely and adamantly stood against it from the start. But yes, I have heard of it.
Why? Can I ask why you have completely inadequately stood against it from the start?
Oh, what's that word again? Because it's bollocks.
It's bollocks.
Yes.
You decide it's bollocks, but it's not bollocks, Nathan. For 400 shows to talk about the same stuff and never advance a greater picture of our reality, right? That's not bollocks at all, is it?
I don't know what you're talking about. What are you referring
You know
to?
what I'm talking about?
No.
You put so much time. How far have you come in terms of
Why are
your
you asking me
understanding?
this?
What is
I've asked-
bollocks, Nathan?
My question is, what is the decapitated tree of life at the center of the moon?
Right.
It doesn't make
Right,
sense.
so you have
I want
decided
to explain
that
it.
the idea of giant crystalline trees is bollocks, right? So that's not going to mean anything to you. Well, I decided for myself that it isn't bollocks, right? And these once giant, magnificent crystalline trees were destroyed, decapitated, if you will. This is what we remember at Christmas time, right? Where we get a decapitated tree and we reconnect it over the X and we artificially light it up, right? So this is what Aristarchus is. It is a decapitated tree. The energies are still being broadcast, but the distribution system, i.e. the main body of the tree, is destroyed. This is what we have in terms of all the mountains now, the detritus and the remains of the giant trees. So you've decided from the very start that that's all bollocks, and fair play to you for doing that.
Well,
that
there
I
is
just
a little
don't-
problem,
I just
though,
don't
with the concept
understand.
of cutting down the world tree.
I don't
that is-
understand it. I don't
If it's going
understand
to
a word
fall
of it.
over and it's going to be miles high, that's going to make quite an impact. So
Yeah, but
where
actually,
is the
if
impact
no one's
of that?
around to hear it, it may not make a sound.
Sorry, I still don't get it.
It's not
When I hear the word tree, right, decapitated or otherwise, I picture root systems in the ground, I picture leaves, I picture
Yeah.
cycles. When I look at the moon, yeah, which I've looked at in detail through a telescope, I don't think tree. I still don't get it.
No, it's
Right.
the special light effect.
Not
It's-
you, Arwin.
magic. It's
Not you.
literally
Oh, Alwyn.
magic. if you don't
Alwyn.
understand.
Not you.
Alwyn.
I'm not asking you, Alwyn. Pete.
Okay. Can I share my screen in a
Of
second?
course you can.
Nathan, can I share my screen in a second, please?
Of course you can. Anything you like to show us and explain it and get it across to us. Anything you like, Pete.
Thank you. Okay. When you look at the moon, you were looking at Aristarchus, right? But all of the craters that are described as separate and distinct craters are not. They're reflected artifacts of one and only one crater. So I'm going to try to bring up a picture of Aristarchus itself, right? And when you see that, then it'll become more familiar to you in terms of tree rings, etc. And you know, the funny thing about Aristarchus is it is so encoded, and so much of our information actually refers to what can be seen when we look at the heart of Aristarchus. So I'm just trying to talk and get the link up at the same time. So hang on a second. I'll just share my screen. Hopefully it comes up. And what you'll be able to see here, wonder of wonders. Oh, shit. Oh, here we go. Yeah, here we go. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Right. This is Aristarchus. Ruhif, you have to, no one can sort of fight me with this because this is a picture taken by NASA, apparently, right? This is Aristarchus here in all its glory. Now, Nathan, does that look any more sort of familiar to you in terms of, let's say, a cut down tree?
Yeah, I'll grant you. It looks like a cross section of a tree.
Thank you. Now, can I ask you a question, Nathan? Can you see anything particular about this? I mean, you need to spend a lot of time looking. I can point out many different features to you, but I'll point you to the center. Can you see anything jumping out at you in terms of numbers or letters or anything?
It doesn't look like a cut down tree because those go upward. This goes downward.
Yeah, I'm sure that's an intent.
Okay, well, watch this, Arwen. Watch this, right? So if you say this goes downwards, what happens if I reverse this and rotate it 180 degrees? Right now, we all agree. We all agree that the moon rotates around the sky, right? So for me to rotate it 180 degrees wouldn't be anything out of natural. Now look at how it appears to come upwards, Arwen. Do you see?
No, I don't.
Well, I'm after rotating it. Can you not see the rotation?
Okay.
I do.
Hold on.
Okay, hang on. Let me reverse it again. There you go. It looks like it's going inwards now. Can I just get a consensus?
I'm trying to round out for a break shortly. I just want to keep it concise. So. Yes, it's similar looking to the cross-section of a tree, but it's also similar looking to a droplet of water dropped into a pond. It's also similar to lots of other things. So,
like what? What's the other thing?
I just gave you one. So a drop of water into a pond would create a similar pattern.
Right, okay.
It's like a strip mine.
Right, but this is just
a strip mine where they basically use giant bulldozers to cut out a giant piece of land.
This is just a preliminary. Remember, you're just considering this for the first time. Can I just get a consensus here?
No, I'm not.
Okay, Arwen, can I just get it from you then? If you look at this picture, right, you would say that this goes inwards. It distends. Would you? I would say it does. It definitely looks that way, right?
Hey, Pete, it looks unnatural. And I'm probably at fault for starting this whole...
Forget about it. Don't worry about it. Remember, according to your science, whoever said that, or maybe Ruif didn't say that, this crater Aristarchus on the moon is the most mysterious object on the moon, which is described as being the most mysterious object in our system.
I think that's you that described that.
No, it's not, Arwen.
If I can ask a quick question, I've also photographed the moon many times. Where is this on the moon?
Listen, hello. Go and type in crater Aristarchus in Google, man.
Okay, sure.
Yeah,
can you use Google?
We're so good at Google and every other opportunity. Can I just get this straight with Arwen? Arwen, if someone showed you this picture as I'm showing you now, I'm going to ask you which way does it appear to go? Does it distend inwards or extend outwards? What would you say?
Inwards.
Thank you. And I assume that the rest of us would all agree the same. Now, as the moon rotates around the sky 360 degrees in one night, it always arrives back to us in the same orientation. I'm perfectly justified in rotating this 180 degrees. As I do that, now look at it, Arwen. Which way would you swear that it extends or projects now, inwards or outwards?
Inwards, but the light is coming from the other direction, the apparent light. Because
Nice
it's not
one.
actually being light.
Right. Well, does it not appear or
Yes. And with that, I'm going to say first and foremost a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of the debating panel for making this debate possible, and of course a massive thank you to all of the live audience for tuning in and hopefully sharing this debate. If you hated the show, then you know exactly what to do, but if you liked the show, maybe consider sharing it with a friend or subscribing if you've not done so already. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!